Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to our first panel discussion of the day. It is titled as Amplifying Voices, Empowering Change, Enabling Marginalized Communities Through Inclusive Social Initiatives. This panel discussion actually will emphasize the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusivity as the fundamental components of effective social interventions. And this discussion, we look forward to having exploration on strategies to how to better serve marginalized communities, and also how to break down systemic barriers and ensure that empowerment endures over time. And today, joining us and moderating this panel discussion is Mr. Abhishek Jha. He is a senior journalist at CNN News 18. And I would request Mr. Jha to come and introduce the topic as well as the finalists, and please moderate the session.
Thank you, Ruchika. Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity of coming here and discussing all the issues of social importance. We are going to discuss about the marginalized communities, broadly speaking, why they are marginalized, and what could we do to ensure that those marginalized sections can become mainstream. And for that, of course, like there are agencies and people who have been working on the grounds, and some of them are with us today. And I believe our panelists, Ms. Kalyani, Krishna from Villgro, and can you welcome her?
Hi, Abhishek.
Hi, hello Krishna. And then we have Dr. Manish Jain, co-founder and executive director, Kineer Services.
Thank you.
And we are also joined by Dr. Siddharth Daga, co-founder, New Motion. Hello, Mr. Daga.
I think Siddharth is yet to join. We can begin the panel. I'm sure he will be joining.
Can we start with the two esteemed panelists, Ruchika?
Yes, absolutely. Please.
Yeah, sure. So before we start and talk about the various kind of work that is being done and that needs to be done, can we ask our panelists to first briefly introduce the kind of work that you have been doing, and the first-hand experience that you want to share with us as people who have been on ground. To start with, can I have Ms. Kalyani to start first?
Thanks, Abhishek. Hi, everyone. My name is Kalyani Krishna. I work as manager gender inclusion at Villgro Innovations Foundation. Villgro is a social incubator. So we support businesses that are either in the health, climate action, or agricultural space to become scalable and profitable. So we are a social incubator. And I lead the gender inclusion initiatives here. So our larger theme is to, bring more women into the workforce. And how we are doing this is, one, by helping women entrepreneurs scale by access to market and finance, and also by supporting businesses become profitable and scalable by making their process inclusive. So this would mean, how do they access more women customers? How do they include more women in their value chain? How can we ensure the business is more inclusive without compromising on its business value and its profits and growth? So this is my role here. Happy to talk about, the programs that we run and the on-ground work that we did. And yeah, this is, this is a little bit about the work I do. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Kalyani. And can I have Dr. Manish Jain, if you could also elaborate something about your work and the kind of involvement that you are having with this marginalized voices section.
Thank you, Abhishek ji. So my name is Manish Jain, and I'm the co-founder for Kineer Services Private Limited. Our organization is working towards the mainstreaming of the transgender community. So you would have heard about a very renowned personality, Lakshmi Narayan Tripathi. She is also a co-founder along with me in Kineer, and the company was formed not for any other business, but to make sure this transgender community gets a chance at becoming mainstream. So we started first with our packaged drinking water brand by the name of Kineer. You might have seen it in the unseen pictures of Shark Tank as well. So we started there. So our factories employ only transgender members and we try to bring them forward. There are a few other initiatives where we are trying to mainstream them with our skill development, our athletes, what we're doing for the transgender athletes. I will talk about more about that. What we're doing for the transgender artists. We have something called Kineer, which celebrates and gets them jobs. So there are various categories where we are working for making sure this community gets a fighting chance. So as and when we are discussing, I'll talk more about it. Thank you so much. Pleasure being here.
Thank you, Mr. Jain. I'll start a discussion with you only. First of all, to have an understanding of the topic for the viewers who will be seeing our interviews session later on. When you say marginalized section, essentially, what do you mean by the very word of it? And I mean, who all could you define? Because there are several people working for several verticals. All are marginalized in their respective sectors. So how do you define a section of a society or a community in a society, in a place or in a geography as people who are marginalized?
See, various people have got, various institutions have got various ways of defining marginalized. What I feel is somebody who doesn't have the right as any other citizen of the country is marginalized. It could be anything, whether whether it's right to jobs, whether it's right to education, it can be anything. Anybody who's kept outside the table, the so-called society table, is marginalized. So when the society chooses to neglect some section for whichever reason, whether it's gender bias, age bias, I don't know, there are so many biases running around. So anybody who's left out is marginalized. How we identify, the government does it, you'll be very surprised to know that the transgender community is not under the minorities. So we don't know. Everybody has a different way. But yes, there are very key guidelines. When you look at it, you know that yes, this particular section has been left out.
So when we talk about marginalized, there is an image that is that flashes in our mind that okay, some people who are have-nots from the society, who the development could not reach there, and probably this is what has kept them away from being mainstream. And I mean, there is no reason, and the moment the development reaches them, they'll be mainstream people. So I don't think that is the case. In context, what we are trying to explain, it's not just the riches or the development that can make somebody marginalized or non-marginalized, especially in the section that you're working with transgender communities. I would like to bring in Ms. Kalyani. So when you have been working with the villagers, I think you have been working with the villagers in one of the southern states in India.
Sure. Abhishek, I think we, at least at Villgro, are looking more to support, like I mentioned, we are a social incubator. So we support enterprises that have a social impact. And there we're not calling specifically out to a marginalized community, but the impact that we're able to make to people at poverty line or below poverty line. So that's the, the impact we're trying to make. I think over the years, our startups are across the country. So with respect to, I am from South India, so that is the connection I have. But other than that, we have been working with, communities, both women and men alike, across the, across the country, particularly in states like Karnataka, Maharashtra, and different geographies based on where our startups are and all of that. So I'm just going to pause here. I just wanted to set some context on the communities that we work with. Now, can you just give me some more specifics on the southern states that you were mentioning, Abhishek?
I was going through Villgro pages, and then it was headquartered in Chennai. So
yes,
I assume
that's correct.
Yeah. Work is based,
no. There. So we are headquartered in Chennai. We also have an office in Bangalore. I'm based out of the Bangalore office. But we support, enterprises across the country.
So how do you go about your work? So like when you have, say X 1,000 rupees for a project, for a fund that you want to spend in empowering a certain community or, giving some entrepreneurial skills set to certain people. So what are your criteria to decide who all could be eligible and where all you could be going and reaching out to them, and how are you going to identify them, and what kind of skills you will be imparting? So how do you ideate it? How do you plan it?
Sure. So, Abhishek, I think, at Villgro, at least we've just recently done a strategy, overview, and we're looking at 7 problem statements across the country. So this could vary from climate action to agriculture, based on the different sectors we work with. I work with gender inclusion. So my problem statement is, how do we bring more women into the workforce? How do we increase their participation? That's the larger, problem statement we're trying to solve. And to solve that, from our experience working with businesses in the last, 22 years, we identified, if you want to support women entrepreneurs scale, you need to give them access to markets and give them access to finance. So that is my problem statement. For that, I approach, CSRs. For example, we're doing a market access program with Cisco as our CSR partners, who is supporting us in this cause to help women entrepreneurs get access to market. So we've identified 7 women entrepreneurs there who are ready to scale their product. And we are making the right kind of partnership connections for these, women entrepreneurs, giving them financial support as grant so that they were able to scale their business. So that is one approach we do. We identify the larger.
So when you identify and launch a project, the training process and the market access and every facilitation that you are going to give them, that will be for how much of time? Like maybe a couple of years, 2 years, 3 years?
Yeah, so that depends a lot on, the CSR mandate as such. So in some cases, the client or the partner we are working with has a mandate of running a program for, say, 10 months. And they would, they would have a year-on-year, upgradation of that particular project, or they want to look at it differently. There are certain cases where we have identified a problem statement and we have said we want to run this for 3 years, and we've gotten in the right kind of partners. So another example is a Powering Livelihoods program we ran, where we had multiple partners supporting us, from like IKEA to
Ms. Kalyani, can I interrupt you just for a second? Because I'm sure one of our panelists who was not being able, was not joined us, Mr. Siddharth Daga, co-founder New Motion, he has joined us. Welcome, Mr. Daga. And to start our conversation, it's not a bit late. I mean, we have just introduced our topic and we have tried to discuss the ways they have been trying to identify their project and how do you reach out to your target group. So to start with, if Mr. Daga, could you please give a brief of the kind of work that your foundation has been doing and you have been involved in what capacity and how is it going?
So yes, apologies for the delay. Actually, my co-founder was supposed to join, but again, he could not. But anyway, so my name is Siddharth, one of the founders of New Motion. So we are a for-profit manufacturing company. We design and manufacture mobility devices, wheelchairs and mobility devices for persons with disabilities. In the last 1.5 years or so, because we are in this industry, we see ourselves, transcending from being design and design engineers to actually being part of this ecosystem where we are involved in some sort of policy making decisions, livelihood establishments, especially in this field. How can you make livelihood more diversified and inclusive for persons with disabilities? So, for example, the recent project that we are involved in is with Zomato, where with our wheelchair product, with our wheelchair scooter, which is called Neo Bolt, a person with disability can now actually do Zomato deliveries as a source of livelihood. And this is just one such example. So while we, through assistive technology, provide mobility to people, and other startups are also doing that, where they provide some sort of assistive technology, how does that assistive technology really empower somebody so that they get equal opportunities like everyone else? So even if I'm visually impaired, even if I'm locomotor disabled, with the help of assistive technology, it becomes a level ground and I have the same opportunities like everyone else. So, I mean, that's very frankly what we've been up to in the last 1.5 years.
That's really great, kind of innovation that you're trying to do, Mr. Daga. I can go back to Mr. Manish Jain. And he was having, he's having actually some kind of experience in working with the transgender section of people or the community. So my question to you is, when we sit in the government or in any policy body, we don't see much of the representation from the same community being part of the policy planning group. So, I mean, really, when you're trying to think about a community, you are trying to redress their issues. and you don't have enough number of people joining them in deciding what kind of policy should be there, how difficult it is to actually implement it on the ground or make, create any kind of differences that was, very first place was wished by the policymakers that, okay, this policy intervention will create this kind of difference. So how much difficult it would actually be?
See, what my personal belief is, when we come to policies and processes, they are to be put in place only when the system doesn't work automatically. When it comes to philanthropy or CSR, the companies themselves, because that has been my personal experience. In the last 5 years, we've placed more than 500 transgender members with various companies. This was not because of any policy which came in. This was not because of any government body intervention. As you rightly said, the representation is very less, but the will to do, initially, maybe they were a bit scared because there was no bridge. Who's going to approach them? How will they approach? If something goes wrong at the workplace, who's there to? I was working in the corporate sector. I myself had this problem. I wanted to hire, but my management was worried that if they misbehave at the workplace, who's going to be there to, make sure that things are in place. So that is when we came in. When we were there, then they knew that, yes, there is Lakshmi Narayan Tripathi, that our entire team is there. We are hand holding, we are training. We've got something called transformation, which is a skill building and placement drive, where we've trained, we have a reverse integration model where we train the transgender members, we place them. We don't need much of government intervention because those things really take a lot of time. And time is something which we do not have. When people, the companies and their dedicated forces come forward, we can actually make a lot of difference rather than looking up at somebody that, this guy is going to come and then the change will happen. It'll never happen. Somebody has to, I've been an executive housekeeper myself. The first thing that they teach us is roll up your sleeves, clean it yourself. Do not wait for somebody's going to come and clean. No, nobody's going to come. You've been sent.
And Mr. one thing, the very first question that you raised, that your corporate company, your company itself was very worried that if they misbehave, how are you going to handle that? So did such any situation occur? And if it did, how did you handle that?
Yes. So situations like these do come up. There is a lot of difference because people are in a rush to hire. And we always tell them, do not hire before you've sensitized your teams. You've made arrangements. There's small things like gender neutral washrooms or locker facilities where they can change clothes, or your team members not looking at them like pieces of meat, because that is what has been the culture. So firstly, there's a lot of groundwork which is required within the organization. The top head, the top management needs to know why they're bringing in a transgender member. Is it just to do a tick box and
exactly.
say, yes?
That was my point. When you said that there is a rush to hire. So what is the sudden rush and urge to hire transgender people?
Pride months, we celebrate Pride month, and everybody also turn rainbow for that month. And suddenly the next month you find is all gone. It's a fad. We run behind, let's do this. Somebody sitting in the top management says, yes, it's good to show, it's nice, let's do it. Let's let everybody know we are inclusive. It's not for that. Half the time we tell the companies, don't do that. Unless you really want to do it, you work like a farmer. You're a farmer, it's your organization. So if I want to plant the seed, how do I have to till it? Who's going to take care of it? Who's going to water it? What happens, harvest, pest control? There are so many issues that you have to do even before you decide on what you want to grow in that field.
Exactly. The complete ecosystem should be well in place before we even intend to do that.
Absolutely. So these are not going to happen with policies. These are not going to happen just because somebody said, yeah, let's grow potatoes. No, maybe my organization is not conducive to grow potatoes. I need to see that, no, I've worked it out. I can grow onions. I cannot do this. So we need to work around a system wherein we are not dependent on policies or a thumb rule, that do this. No, we have to look at passionate people who are building those kind of ecosystems which are conducive for that kind of a community. We find out roles. That's what Kineer does. We find out roles. I know, like Siddharth was also saying, we place transgender members as delivery personnel with Flipkart. There are more than 55 members who are working there. That's great. We also have a differently abled transgender member where we gave them scooters, and she goes for delivering Flipkart parcels. Very difficult. Something like this that Siddharth said, I noted it down. Maybe I'll get in touch with him. That yes, we have members who are looking, whether they are PWCs or whether they are people who approach us because now they know that Kineer is working towards the marginalized communities. So we create that. We very honestly, we didn't wait for policies. we said we will not, we will set our own, this is my house. I don't want a cop to come inside and tell me, you need to do this. No, it's my house. I know how to take care of my family. So once it's my family, I know I am not waiting for policies.
It's great to hear that you have liked the idea of Mr. Daga, and probably you will be getting in touch and having some joint collaboration. But interesting to know your perspective. Coming back to Ms. Kalyani, if I could ask you something, our conversation got interrupted. But how do you make it sustainable? The kind of investment that you do, the kind of training that you do, that every effort that you have done to ensure those entrepreneurial skill and vertical is established in that section. How do you ensure that it remains like that? It sustains itself for a substantial number of years, so that at least a reasonable change has been made. It's not just that it fizzles out the moment you withdraws from that that vertical or that setup. The moment you withdraw, it collapses. So how do you ensure that the sustainability or self sustainable model is also established very much in that sense?
Thanks, Abhishek. That's a very relevant question. And I think all of us are, trying to find that right equilibrium of sustainability. And we're just, getting better and better at it, striving towards, perfection here. So coming to Villgro's example, like I said, we support women entrepreneurs, to become not just women entrepreneurs from like tier 1 cities, but we look at tier 2, tier 3 cities where we're supporting women micro entrepreneurs. So in that situation, I'm taking this particular example because there again, we had often questioned ourselves. So we can take, a lot of innovations to these women, but we don't want them to just look at the innovations. We want them to adopt it and to generate a livelihood out of it. So as a first step, what we did is we did what we call a trade activation event. So we got, DRE-based innovation. So they could be, a solar cooker, a solar cooking machine, a food processor, a solar refrigerator. Then we had, a hydroponic system that, that's very relevant to the kind of livelihoods that are already in existence in that particular area. So in the trade activation event, we got these innovators. We identified financial partners in the area who would be able to loan out in any form, to these women or women clusters that are coming in. We identified women clusters there who would come in to just see the product, get a look and feel of it, understand, what is the use of this product and how they can use it. And more importantly, we got existing women users of the product to come and talk about it. Because often for women to adopt, they need to see somebody from their community representing them who are actually using it and building a livelihood out of it. So this is the first step, giving them an awareness of the product, giving them the confidence they will be able to adopt. Over and above this, we gave them training. And, with the training, we looked at one, not just on the product, on how they use it. For example, if it's a food processing machine, we not just give them, skills on how to use it to make a jam or an achar, but also on how do you market this product? Which digital platforms will you be able to sell it? So that we are giving them the right kind of skills to be able to generate a revenue of their own and thereby sustain it. So this is just, one example of how we have ensured the innovations that are there reach these women and are also imparting, skills to these women to not just use it, but also to generate a revenue of their own. We're not, we're not in the perfect stage yet, but we are learning step by step as we do more and more of such events and interacting with more, women entrepreneurs.
Sure. Can I, if I can come back to Siddhartha. So you said that you have been working in some sort of assisted mobility for people with disability. How has been your experience working with them? We know that there is some kind of stigma with people who are able in our society. There is no denying about this fact, and especially if you are providing them with a day-to-day job that requires a lot of public dealing. Maybe I think more than if one can desire, like more frequently they come to people who are less sensitized and less impact. They have less empathy towards people with certain disabilities. So how do you condition them? You can provide them with motorable ability or those assisted equipments, but those mental capability, that strength that actually can sail them through the day. How do you train them? If you could just tell us something on that.
So exactly right. I am actually a design engineer. I am actually not a subject matter expert in training wheelchair users to do Zomato deliveries and tackling the non-sensitized people on the streets. It is something that we have also learned in this process. So see, this project is 1.5 years old. If I last saw the dashboard, there were close to 50,000 Zomato orders that we have delivered till now, that all the wheelchair delivery partners have delivered. And huh,
in 5 years.
in 1.5 years.
Oh, great. That's great.
In 1.5 years, 50,000 Zomato food orders have been delivered. Now, when we interact with our delivery partners, it is not a training from our side. What did you face while doing Zomato deliveries, being a wheelchair user? So I would say maybe 50, 60 orders till date, which is across 50,000 orders. So it's a very small percentage that way. But there are delivery partners who say, yes, when I went to do this delivery, because there was no elevator, I requested the customer to come down and take the order from me. And there was a back answer saying that, "Aap kyun ye kar rahe ho? Matlab, you're a wheelchair user, you should do something which is from home, a work from home sort of opportunity." So there are such reactions, but it's very few. Even if you ask the delivery partner, sir, मतलब मैं महीने के अगर 200 orders you do, आज एक महीने में मुझे 1 या 2 ऐसे cases आए हैं. So there are cases like this, and it is not something that we are training them to do that. We discuss amongst ourselves and we decide. So maybe the guy in Bangalore tells the guy in Delhi, when I called up my customer, I told them, I am from Zomato. I've got your order. However, I apologize. I request you to please come down, because I will not be able to come down because I'm on a wheelchair. It is not a demand from the delivery partner that I am on a wheelchair, you come down. It is still a request and an apology, because at the end, being a Zomato delivery partner, that person was supposed to do a door delivery, but they are not. So we realize that it should not be something that we are a marginalized community, we should demand our rights. It should not start like that. It should be more like, let's request them and apologize. And definitely when this person will come down, they will see that I'm on a wheelchair, and many of them actually take a picture, they post on social media that today my order was delivered by this guy, and he's on a wheelchair. Even female, we have some female wheelchair users also who are doing this. So I think it starts not from showing that you are disabled and hence I need additional help. You just apologize for not being able to do that extra mile, and then the public automatically gets sensitized, and then they will cooperate with every other.
And I think more we see them in public places, every people that we try to segmentize as marginalized, more easier it will be for us also to adopt and to get sensitized. Like no matter
so on
how
that
much.
Note, it's a very valid point, Abhishek. I just put that point. So when we say about why are there not that many ramps, it's not because there are not many ramps. It's because many wheelchair users were not going outside. So it never came into light that, hey, I need a ramp over here. Nobody came and said that I need a ramp there. That's what I'm saying.
That it was really nice having you, Siddharth, here. And before I wind up, because the next session is about to begin, the panelists have already reached. Just like to ask all three of you, by just the kind of work the CSR is doing is broadly trying to bring in all the stakeholders in this domain together, so that there is an interactive platform and a sense of acknowledgement and knowing each other. So if you could suggest something for our platform, it will be really nice. And then with that, we'll wind up the session. Starting with Mr. Manish Jain.
The CSR universe, as per my experience, is wonderful. We see so many tenders which come up on the CSR universe, which we might not have been aware of. It's not easy for implementation partners to be everywhere and to get to know which company is looking. There's always a gap between a service provider and a customer. But CSR universe, especially for us, has been fantastic, because I can pinpoint the companies who are looking at the transgender initiatives, whether it's skill development or rations or whatever, and I can just pinpoint that I know who's the person. I don't have to waste time in trying to dig a well and then get the water. CSR Universe has been fantastic in making sure that the right tenders for the right NGO who's got that kind of mandate, connect. So thank you for that. It's been wonderful, and as we grow, we'll come up with suggestions.
Yes, as well. So I think it's a platform, CSR Universe is doing a wonderful work. It would be great to, have more and such opportunities to interact with, other entities, could be NGOs, CSR organizations, same cause. It will be good to, have smaller network events or, discussion forums with them that, could lead to fruitful discussions.
Thank you, Siddharth. I think you already have a potential collaborator in Mr. Jain. But still, I would like to have you wind up with something that
correct.
you want to say.
So exactly right. While I don't represent an NGO nor a CSR donor, it's good that you invited a vendor, a solution provider also for this, because exactly we also want to be part of this ecosystem. We feel that yes, with our solutions we can help this ecosystem develop. So thank you for calling us and making us part of this ecosystem. I think it starts from here. We'll go from here.
It was a real pleasure having all of you here, and with this, I thank Mr. Jain, Ms. Kalyani, and Mr. Siddharth also for joining us and giving your insights into this the great work that you have been doing, especially in your domain. I'll be going back to Ruchika for she'll be actually conducting the next session. So Ruchika, back to you.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. Thank you so much, Manish ji. Thank you so much, Kalyani ji, and of course Siddharth. The work, the amazing work he's been doing, and yes, it's a collaborative effort, and we will definitely connect again and again for such insightful discussions. Thank you so much. So